Let's start in our theme verse and we will see what happens. Matthew 16, verses 13 through 19. Jesus came to Caesarea Philippi. There he put his question to his disciples. Who do people say that the Son of Man is? John the Baptist, they replied. Others say Elijah. Others say Jeremiah or one of the prophets. But what about you? He asked them. Who do you say I am? Simon Peter answered, You are the Messiah. He said, You're the Son of the living God. God's blessing on you, Simon, son of John, answered Jesus. Flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you. It was my Father in heaven. And I've got something to tell you too. You are Peter, the rock, and on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell won't overpower it. The gates of hell won't overpower it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you tie up on earth will have been tied up in heaven. Whatever you untie on earth will have been untied in heaven. Now, notice this goes from verse 18, the end of verse 18. I will build my church, and the gates of hell won't overpower it. And then right into 19, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Go ahead.
First about like the loose and just having just a quick plug, are you?
We will get to that later. we will. Not today, but several sessions down the road, we're going to get to that. What all that means and how that's one of the tools in our toolbox to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish here. There are other tools, but that's one of them, and that's something that we need to discuss. And it ties right into what I was about to say that, okay, it goes right from the gates of hell won't overpower it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. In your experience, do gates have keys? Kind of depends on where you were raised. I mean, I was raised on a farm, and those gates did not have keys. But you get away from that context, and I would say that most of the time, gates do have keys. Well, more than just a latch to keep it closed. That would be like the stuff on the farm, but a key so that not everybody can open or close it. Around your pool, in years past, it was enough that you just had a latch on the thing, but now people are afraid a little kid's going to jump in there by mistake or something. So now they are locking those. The backyards, again, in times past, it was a thing where it just latched to keep it closed, but now they're starting to lock stuff. More and more times you run into gates that have a key in it. Is there a connection between Jesus saying, I'm going to give you the keys, and I had just talked about the gates won't overpower it? What are those keys to? Probably the gate. So there's something about the gate being opened by a key. And he's going to give us at least one of these keys, and we'll talk about that much later in the course. I've been repeatedly making the case that these gates are the 7 mountains that determine any culture. And it's been a pleasure because you guys have really embraced that idea. You've caught that idea without me really having to pursue it a lot. But it'll be very, very clear after today about how the Bible uses this word gate and what it means. Let's review the 7 mountains as we talk about this today, as is our trend. Religion, business, government, education, science and technology, media, arts, entertainment, family. Someone was talking to me recently and said, yeah, I was thinking about that the other day and I tried to list them all and I got like 5 or something. Oh, great. 3 months ago, you wouldn't have known but 2, if that, or 1 or whatever. We hadn't got all 7 yet. We're going to keep hearing it. We'll get this before we get done. We'll get to the point where we can list them all and see them all in their application as we look at various situations before we get done with this. But I'm just happy that, hey, we've gone from I didn't know anything about this to hell, I can name 5 of them without even thinking about it. Yay. Congratulations. Today, I wanted to continue a discussion that we started a few weeks back called A Biblical View of Gates. This is part 3 of that discussion, a biblical view of gates. Here we go. Genesis 23, 10 through 20. Now, Ephron was a native Hittite. So Ephron the Hittite responded to Abraham publicly in order that the Hittites and everyone at his city gate could hear. And everyone at his city gate could hear. Now, we'll talk in just a moment about what he's actually talking about. But who did he want to address this? Who did he want to hear this? The people at the gate. Why? Why the people at the gate? Why was it important that they hear that this conversation takes place? Let's read on. No, sir, listen. I'll give you the field, and I will give you the cave in it, in front of my people's witnesses. I will give it to you. Bury your dead. Now, it's talking just after Abraham's wife, Sarah, had died. So he's trying to figure out a place to bury her. Verse 12, Abraham bowed before the local citizens and spoke to Ephron publicly in the presence of the local citizens. Okay, the local citizens, where was he? At the gate. So the town meeting place, the place where they did town business, was at the gate. Does everyone see that? If only you would accept my offer, I will give you the price of the field. Take it from me so I can bury my dead there. Ephron responded to Abraham, Sir, what is 400 shekels of silver between me and you for the land so that you can bury your dead? Abraham accepted Ephron's offer and weighed out for Ephron the silver he requested publicly before the Hittites. 400 shekels of silver at the current rate of exchange. So the land of Ephron in Machpelah near Mamre, the field and the cave in it, and all the trees within the field's boundaries, was officially transferred to Abraham as his property in the presence of the Hittites and of everyone at his city gates. Now that's a mouthful. What? A business exchange. And where did it happen? At the gates, in front of the witnesses, in front of the city council, in front of the leaders, in front of whatever. And notice also it was officially transferred. Officially transferred. Now, when you're dealing with real estate, at what point is it officially transferred? When you sign it and you get the keys, the witnesses, but they have to file a paper at the courthouse, don't they? Isn't it? It's not official until it gets filed at the courthouse and the deed gets transferred legally. So what all is happening here at the gate? They made the business arrangement, he paid him, and it was officially certified at the gate. Okay, 19. After this, Abraham buried his wife Sarah in the cave in the field of Machpelah near Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave in it were officially transferred from the Hittites to Abraham as his burial property. And it all happened at the gate. So what all do we have going on here? We got a business transaction. It was made official because it was done in front of witnesses at the gate.
Did it say what witnesses were there?
It just said the citizens. In this particular, it was just the citizens.
The intent, it doesn't necessarily matter who is witnessing as long as they expect.
It doesn't in this case. There are others where it says who was there. And in this verse, it did not. You could infer from what you read elsewhere that we're not talking about just your average below Joe citizen. This would be like the city council. Other places, it's called the city leaders, the elders of the city. In some places, it's called the judges, officials. So we've got business. You could say family is involved because he's burying his former wife. You could say that that's involved and that's going to have something to do with it. But the thing I wanted to mention is you've got the business transaction. You've got the people at the gate acting as the government, the certifying authority on all these transactions too, when it was officially transferred. Does everyone see that? Okay, let's keep going. Genesis 34, 20 through 24. Hamor and his son Shechem went to the meeting place at the city gate. Went to the meeting place at the city gate. So what did we learn? What is common to be located at the city gate? The official city meeting place, the public meeting place. We would call that city hall, or where the town council meets or something like that. the official meeting place for business of the city, is what is happening here at this gate. And spoke to the people of the town. These men are friendly. Let them live in the town with us and travel freely. The land is large enough for them also. Let us marry their daughters and give them ours in marriage. But these men will agree to live among us and be one people with us only on the condition that we circumcise all of our males as they are circumcised. Won't all their livestock and everything else they own be ours? So let us agree that they can live among us. All the citizens of the city agreed to what Hamor and Shechem proposed, and all the males were circumcised. Now, that has got to be, without a doubt, the most bizarre city council meeting in recorded history. How would you like to be in the room when this proposal came across your desk? Hey, we're going to invite these people to come in, but there's one condition. We've all got to be circumcised. Huh? What? Whoa, 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 whoa. Time out. Say that again. Did I hear you correctly? We have to be circumcised to do this? And then even more bizarre in my mind, they voted to accept the terms of the deal. How much stuff did they have? How many resources did they have in order for you to be willing to take that deal? What were they expecting to gain from this transaction? We're going to have more people in our city, yes, but these are wealthy. These are substantial people. These are people of influence. And we're going to have access to their resources. We're going to have access to their livestock. We're going to have access to their allies, to their infrastructure, to their resources. How substantial do they have to be for you to be willing to accept as a city that all the males had to be circumcised first? Okay, what all is going on here? Government, because they made an official decision. Religion, because the whole point of this discussion was a religious criteria. Business, family, is education involved in this thing too? I'm sure somehow, but and I'm sure the arts, media, and entertainment, I'm sure the news press went nuts over this deal, especially when you read on down the story and what happened. They were using it as a trick. Their sister had been abused, basically, and they were trying to get back at the people. So while they were recovering from their circumcision, they went and killed them all. I'm not saying it's a great story, but what did they have to bring to the table for you to be willing to do that and make yourself that vulnerable and then see it really fall apart? Where was it all decided? By the citizens who met at the gate. Okay. Next one. I'm hoping you're starting to see, as we've even read a couple of these now, that the Bible is full of this connection between the gate and the mountains. It's not just something that we made up because it looked nice in the New Testament and we can kind of see the traces of it. It's obvious, and there's story after story after story, account after account after account of things happening at the gate that bring out, okay, the mountains were at play there. Maybe not all of them in every instance, but overall, you'll get to all of them eventually. Yes. 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 Soul. Yeah. Yeah.
That's out of balance, and so the more.
That's good. Yep. How often do we do the same thing? How often do we make decisions based upon what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of this, instead of, did God tell you to do it or not do it?
That, because those commercials actually are about anything other than meat. It's all food, feed this, feed this, feed this, feed this, feed.
And why else would you be willing to spend, what is it, what are they, $8 million or something, just maybe higher, for a 30-second Super Bowl ad? Plus all the production costs to create the ad.
Oh, all fancy food and everything.
Right.
And catered to and everything.
Right.
It looks like it's a box.
So this concept, that this idea that I'm trying to expose about when Jesus referred to the gates, he wasn't just referring to the physical location that he was standing at. He was referring to this cultural thing that had been established all through the Old Testament. And they understood the references to the gate and what that meant. And then Jesus was just pointing out I'm going to give you the ability to confront the gates and all that they represent and all that they include and all that they contain. Yes. Yes. And I'm gonna enable you to be part of that change, to be the influence, the driving force, or just somehow involved in making that paradigm change, forcing that paradigm change. Yes.
It's be like, Christ would be the gate that he should go to, but where he went to is he got his payoff from the Pharisees with it. He got the silver.
Right.
And then he knew he did wrong, so he came back to the self, asked them for the money back instead of going to Christ, and asked for repentance. So he's going, instead of going to God, he's going.
Right. Trying to undo it and thinking he could fix it. I'm not sure why he had the recounting there. We talked in one lesson about I called it the death spiral, how that lust gave birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. There's a verse that talks about the progression there and how Judas followed that cycle. So I don't know how. I mean, I can see how he got through to all the steps. I'm not sure about the momentary brief repentance at the end, or what prompted that, other than I don't think it turned out like he thought it was going to. So he was trying to undo it.
He's still going back. to
Right.
himself.
Right.
Then we mentioned like last week too about all the church leaders, they saw the miracles, but they didn't go to God. They went back to their own self.
Right, yeah.
Their own, like you're saying, your list, the government, this is how we've always done it, or this is how we're gonna do it, we're gonna change the law this way, it's all self instead of being selfless and seeking power.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 17, 2-7. May the Lord your God give you towns to live in. You may hear that a man or woman who lives in one of your towns has done a bad thing. He has done a sin that is against the covenant of the Lord your God. He may have started to worship false gods that I have commanded you not to worship. Perhaps he worships the sun, the moon, or the stars. If you hear news like that, you must check the report carefully. If it is true that a wicked thing like that has happened in Israel, you must punish that person. Take the man or the woman who has done that wicked thing to the gate of the town. You must throw stones at that person to kill them. But 2 or 3 people must agree at what the person has done. You must never kill anyone because of the words of only one person. The people who saw the wicked act must throw the first stones to kill the person. Then everyone else must also throw stones. In that way, you must remove evil acts from among you. So where did this occur? At the gate. So in this context, what all is at play? You got a religion aspect, which is driving the rule, the law, or whatever that was broken. You've also got a civil government action taking place where they're carrying out an execution. So in that area, the civil government was also religious. We still see that in many places in the world today, where there's a civil government, but it's very religious based. So it's not really an independent government. It's a religious government driven by whatever religion happens to be in power at that moment. But the interesting thing to me is they took him to the gate. Now, I like this part about you have to have 2 or 3 witnesses. And I like to apply that to teaching and to biblical stuff as well. If God set the rule so that you couldn't be executed on the account of only one witness, why would we believe a theology that could have ramifications on our eternal life with only one witness? What does that mean? I can find any half verse out of scripture and make it say whatever I want. But if the requirement is, I can't really teach that, I can't really express that, I can't really establish that as a foundational truth until I can see it in at least two witnesses, three would be better, from different places. So if I don't have three independent verses, let's say at least two independent verses, I can't really say anything more than this is my opinion about that. And anybody that does say, okay, I've got a half a verse here and this is my new doctrine, you need to be very cautious of that. You need to be very aware of the fact that what they're saying is probably not legit, or they could have found more than two verses about it, more than half a verse about it in particular. I could say anything I want to. Judas went out and hanged himself, and then from another place, go and do thou likewise. Did the Bible actually say that suicide is a good thing? No, of course not. But did I make it appear as if that's what it said? Sure. But I'm twisting, I'm manipulating, I'm contriving something that doesn't really exist. The context matters. The context of the verses matter. Right? Is this relevant to the discussion? But the fact that the two verses, and it would be great if the two verses came from different sections. If you came from the Old Testament and the New Testament, if it came from David and another one came from Paul, if it came from Peter and Paul, the more different perspectives that you get saying the same thing, the more certainty you have that that is the right interpretation, the right understanding, the right, assessment of what that thing is actually supposed to be saying. At the gate, they executed civil authority under a religious context. And then, of course, it enveloped family also. I mean, some people were going to die as a result of this. I can see education also being at play here. Why education? Well, you should in your schools be saying, okay, this is what you don't do to avoid being killed. And I can even see arts, media, and entertainment being involved there. Think about the NASCAR races. A lot of people go to the NASCAR races for the racing, but a lot of people go to the NASCAR races to see the wrecks. In the olden days, they used to have public gatherings for hangings. They would announce it at such and such time, so-and-so is going to be hanged. Oh, yay, we get to go be entertained by somebody else's demise. Were there newspaper articles about, oh, well, yesterday we had to stone so-and-so because of this? Yeah, go ahead.
The intent here of this law,
Right.
is the intent here like because people tend to gather and rock at like public executions? Is the intent here that the people that saw the wicked act must throw the first stone to kill the first, but then everyone else must throw stones so that they can actually like, oh well, if you're going to be mocking them, you might as well
Participate.
killing somebody significant and should be. I don't know if that's.
I hadn't thought about that. My first thought would be more like when they used to do firing squads. They had, what, 7 or some people actually fire at the person at the same time for the reason that you don't know if it was your bullet that killed them.
Not like, oh, well, I guess the witnesses aspect of the officials. I keep thinking that it's just random witness. If you're, like you said before, witnesses are going to usually be like witnesses of the crime they committed or official people that gathered on the gates that the people that had before.
The witness, they had to go through, I'm going to call it a trial for lack of a better term. So the witnesses had to appear when they were doing, there was a trial. I don't know how involved or what extent the trial took place. Even Jesus, when he was crucified, he went through a trial, so to speak. They tried to find evidence against him, and their biggest problem was they couldn't find 2 witnesses that would agree. The one witness said, I heard him say this. The next witness will say, well, no, I heard him say something else. And they couldn't get the witnesses to match. So they kept going and going until they finally found something that they could get multiple people to agree on, but they're going through this trial. They're going through this process. The witnesses have to come forward and say, yes, I saw them. Okay, fine. Thank you for a report, but we need a second person who saw the same thing before we can move forward. And once the second person comes forward, okay, now we've got a quorum, if you want to call it that. And now we can take further action. Or any defense, any questions, any comments? Can you explain yourself? Did they really see what they say they saw? Did we find the idol in your house? Whatever the case may be there, whatever other things they went and did. And then, okay, sorry, too bad, so sad, you're done. We're going to execute you probably right now. We're not going to give you the course of appeal. And I'm not saying all this stuff is right. I'm just saying that that's what they did. When they went out to the gate to do the stoning, the people that had to throw the first stones are the ones that were the witnesses that saw the action. And then as far as everybody else joining in, they were there. Maybe we don't want this to feel guilty on those two that they were solely responsible for this. And I'm sure that some people just really enjoyed throwing rocks.
Then I don't know about that. You must remove evil act.
God wanted his people to be separate from all the worldly influences around them. And one way to do that is to get rid of it. One way to do that is to eliminate it. Now, again, especially this was before the cross. So there wasn't really a remedy for getting rid of somebody that was hell-bent on going down a road of destruction. They didn't have grace. They didn't have an empowerment available internally. The price for that sin, the price for their soul, the price for all that stuff had not been paid yet. So all that they had to deal with was, okay, we need to get rid of this. There's not even really time for you to just let you grow out of it, because you can infect other people along the way. I hadn't thought about it that way, but that's an interesting. My point in even bringing up the verse was it just happened at the gates. This was another thing that occurred at the gates. Now we can think through all the different ramifications. Oh, you're fine. You're fine. It's part of the verse, so sure. All right, let's keep going. Deuteronomy 21, 18 through 21. When a man has a stubborn son, a real rebel who won't do a thing his mother and his father tell him, and even though they discipline him, he still won't obey, his father and his mother shall forcibly bring him before the leaders at the city gate and say to the city fathers. So who's at the gate? The leaders or the city fathers, the elders of the city. This son of ours is a stubborn rebel. He won't listen to a thing we say. He's a glutton and a drunk. Then all the men of the town are to throw rocks at him until he is dead. You will have purged the evil pollution from among you. All Israel will hear what's happened and be in awe. So again, where do they do this? At the gates. Who did it? The city leaders, those responsible for enforcing the religion, those responsible for enforcing the civil government. What else was affected here? It's obviously a family matter. I mean, the mom and dad brought the rebellious kid and had him killed, basically, because they can't do anything with him. Okay.
For Fred, not to do this, or this is what's gonna happen to you if you do. So that is, I'm kind of a little off on where we're talking about trying to move the mountain.
Okay.
On this, I'm getting a little off on what we're talking about on how we move.
And I'm not talking about that right now. I'm not, this is the pattern for which we're going to approach this. I'm not saying that at all. We're talking about the gates. We're establishing a biblical context for gates and what happens at gates. And this is all harsh. This is all really difficult for me to read, especially when you approach the worldview after the cross, and now everything is about grace, grace, grace. So much so that we make grace cheap sometimes. Do we need to probably head back towards some of this? Maybe.
Well, that's, sounds.
The prodigal son story. Okay. Right. Right.
And Bob gave him his half the inheritance and he left. And then when he comes back, and son, the father sees him afar coming.
Right.
And then the other son that's there, he's upset about it, and he says, my son has died. Now he's returned.
Yeah, he's lived. He goes, right.
So, that'd be like a way of, he altered this, so he didn't have to take his son down in front of everybody, have him stoned to death, that he just. gave him-
I think that reveals the father's real heart in the thing. And again, they're powerless here. They don't have any spiritual authority to deal with these situations.
It's probably not either, so he wanted to spare his son, so he said, take yours and go away, and you're dead to me, you're dead to the family, you're dead to all this. In theory, hypothetically, whatever. So then he comes back and now he's been reborn.
Right. And that ties to what you were saying too, about that's how you approach the mountain, how we're gonna change the culture. Or this is the law. This is the way that we're supposed to do it. But we can now introduce grace into the situation like what he's talking about. We can now introduce grace into this thing which alters the law, which supersedes the law, which is a different approach to the law. Did they end up killing the prodigal boy? Not physically, but he had to die to that former lifestyle. He's dead, and then get restored, get turned back around. But he had to change.
That was the law.
Right.
The other son is saying, this is the law.
Yes.
He no longer belongs here. We can take him downtown in front of the gate and.
And get rid of it. But the attitude that Jesus was trying to portray in that is, okay, look, I know that this is written, and I'm not saying you need to violate this, but I'm saying that I'm introducing a new method. I'm giving you a new tool by which this doesn't have to be the outcome, by which you can change that culture. You can change that. You can address that issue in the culture from the perspective of a more gracious religion, from the perspective of a more forgiving civil government, from the perspective of a family where you've got spiritual authority to overcome some of this stuff, from the perspective of we're going to make sure that we only focus the news cycles on things that are godly and uplifting, like this guy returning home and being converted, not all the junk that he did previously. That's a good point.
Back. And who's the master? His brother.
Right.
But then it's also like the other side, I feel like the brother needs to learn a new way of living, which is forgive your brother, even though you're in charge of him, you're probably not gonna be the best brother to him, to take a while to heal. And forgiveness and grace, something that's totally alien.
Yes.
Concept at that time.
Yes.
So free gift, you'll never be able to be paid. Or be received, it's really cool.
That's a good connection. I like that. Good job, guys. Fleshing that out, and I hadn't even thought through that. Awesome. All right, let's keep going. Deuteronomy 22, 13 through 19. Suppose a man marries a woman, but after sleeping with her, he turns against her and publicly accuses her of shameful conduct, saying, when I married this woman, I discovered she was not a virgin. Then the woman's father and mother must bring proof of her virginity to the elders as they hold court in the town gate. Her father must say to them, I gave my daughter to this man to be his wife, and now he has turned against her. He has accused her of shameful conduct, saying, I've discovered that your daughter was not a virgin. But here is the proof of my daughter's virginity. Then he must spread her bed sheet before the elders. The elders must then take the man and punish him. They must also fine him 100 pieces of silver, which he must pay to the woman's father because he publicly accused a virgin of Israel of shameful conduct. The woman will then remain the man's wife, and he may never divorce her. Okay, where did it happen? What did they have to bring to the gates? Well, the elders had to come to the gates and make the decision. To prove the case, what did they have to bring? The bed sheet. We don't want to get into the the details of what that is involving there, but I think you understand what happened and why that could be proof of, or lack of proof of a certain situation. Anyway, well, that's just kind of a weird thing that you would keep that you would monitor that you would have access to that, and then that you would bring that before the elders. So now we've got proof of things happening. What arena does this introduce as a mountain? Marriage, family, right? Think about the evidence. The law, the civil part of it is still in effect. I mean, we're dealing with marriage, we're dealing with possible divorce, we're dealing with possible death, we're dealing with a fine. So possibly a business thing too on the fine portion of it. How about science and technology? The proof was the science that they had of the day. There might be some other tests that we can run now, but in that particular time, that was the proof. And if you didn't have that proof in this situation, you're just in trouble. But if you did have the proof, okay, I'm sorry, I lied. I made a mistake here. Obviously, that is the case. You represented yourself correctly. Pay your fine, and I can never divorce you because I've already tried to shame you once. All at the city gates. Okay, moving right along. Deuteronomy 22, 23 through 24. A man might meet a virgin girl engaged to another man. He might have sexual relations with her. If this happens in the city, you must bring them both out to the public place near the gate of that city. Must bring them where? To the public place. And where is the public place? Near the gate. So the meeting place, the public place, the city hall, the town hall was near the gate. And you must kill them with stones. You must kill the man because he used another man's wife for sexual sin. And you must kill the girl because she was in the city but did not call for help. You must remove this evil from your people. Now it goes on to say, now if this happened outside the city, you have to kill the man but not the girl, because you have to assume that outside the city she screamed for help and nobody heard her, so nobody was able to come for help. But inside the city, when she screamed for help, somebody should have come to her aid, and if they didn't, we must assume that she didn't scream for help. Now, there's some science and technology in that too, about people lying and people hearing, and I'm not going to belittle that point. My emphasis here, it happened at the public meeting place next to the gate. They had the trial there, they had the execution there. All the events took place there. All the things, all the activities took place at the gate. What all's going on here? Religion, government again, for the execution part of it. Family. Is education part of this? Obviously, you're going to be talking to your kids about, here's what you don't do. We want you to stay around. We want you to stay alive. Here's what you don't do. Here's so-and-so's bad example and what can happen to you after the fact.
And if you were Jesus confronts this, if you're without sin, you know, for the first time.
Right.
And also at the well with the Samaritan.
Yes.
He confronts her. This right here, it's 5 husbands or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Big 5.
5. And the one you don't have now, or the one you're with now is not your husband. Yeah.
And he forgives her. But he confronts her and this is what you are. Basically, is it going up sin anymore kind of thing? What he done with her? Or?
So that's a good example. That's really great, because like, that puts a lot more gravity on that situation of Florida because of the mercy that it has.
Right.
And being, you know, potentially considered a witness, right? That other people might have talked about this, probably might know. And then he comes and confronts her about it and says, this is what I know that you have done. But then she's probably thinking, please don't tell anybody, like, because I might have to go to the gate, go to trial.
Right. I don't want to go around the rest of this road. Yeah, that's good.
throw someone that knows her, so once again, we're right back to this again.
So they're probably thinking like, whoa, how can you do that? How can you even say that she's forgiven, that there's mercy when a law says? So that's a paradigm shift, right?
Yes, that Jesus introduced. Was Jesus okay with the fact that she had 5 former husbands? How do we know he wasn't okay with it?
There's also, she lied in his face about it, and he confronted that as well. He said that, you know, that he said, it's not your, that husband.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not your husband. He sorted it all out. I can't even sort it out in my head. Somebody.
I say he wasn't comfortable with it. He wasn't okay with it because he required that she change. Every time Jesus confronted sin with anybody, he required that they leave that conversation different. Look, I'm not going to beat you up about your mistake. I'm going to make you acknowledge your mistake. And then from this point forward, don't do that again. Leave that, depart from that, change your ways, change your thoughts, change your activities, change your life so that you don't find yourself in this spot again. Right. Okay. Okay. Good. Good. Were you going to say something, Adam? Okay. Are we seeing these gates play out and how our point, and when we get to it's a great conversation. When we get to that portion of this, our activity is going to be designed to change the paradigm, to confront these cultures from these mountains, to get them to change their viewpoint, to get them to change their influence. And you guys are bringing it out very well. How Jesus did that, how that he would go after some of these rules, some of these laws that may have made sense, might not have made sense. I don't know. They were still part of the law, and approach them differently because now he's introducing a new tool. He's introducing a new concept, a new paradigm to the mix, that you're no longer bound by this anymore. You're no longer controlled by this anymore. Here's another option. Take me up on it. Accept my offer.
The gates.
Okay.
Everything that happens is at the gate.
Yes.
And that actually moves the whole society.
Yes. That's my point. That's exactly what I'm saying today.
All this spreads, it goes.
Correct. So when Jesus says the gates of hell will not prevail against you, what am I saying? All this stuff that happens at the gate will not stop you from changing the paradigm. You won't be hindered. You may be delayed, but you're going to have to battle this. You're going to have to approach this.
Wild thing to think about, because it's like, think of the gates of hell being, oh, evil and all of this stuff, but justice happens at the gate, right? Which is the justice and the wrath of God, which we don't consider evil. So it's like this meeting place between evil place and then justice from heaven. And then, but Jesus is saying, like, I have a different way. And so rather than like investing in continuing that same paradigm, which is not good for man, then he is interjecting himself into that.
Right.
To pay to be the exchange at the gate.
Right. Okay.
And he's saying, I am the exchange here, right? But take me instead. I'm paying for everyone else. So it's justified now. And no one else can, at that point, there's no reason to have this paradigm. So he's just like, he's basically stopping this entire thing in its track and saying the way to change is to have mercy and love and God is still righteous and wrathful, but he wants you, he loves you, he wants to take care of you.
But he already poured all that out. If you're willing to receive that, he's already poured all that out.
I think he's also preparing his disciples to go out and his apostles to go forward and build a church and all of that. And he's saying that that this gate is no longer binding you because you don't have to go and do these exchanges. You don't have to go and follow these same paradigms, these same paths. It's completely changed.
But you're still going to have to approach those gates and draw attention to the fact that it's no longer necessary so that people have the option to shift.
Let's have knowledge to be able to.
Yes.
For that to happen, what we're talking about changing, we've got to be at the gate.
Yes. 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 That's where it all happens. Everything happens at the gates. So when Jesus said, the gates of hell will not prevail against you, what are we talking about when we say that? This is what we're talking about. All the stuff that defines society, all the stuff that defines culture are at the gates. The light bulbs are coming on. Y'all are seeing this. It's great. It's fantastic to watch and watch your expressions as it dawns on you. One thing I was going to say, one of my favorite verses when we mess it up. You probably have known this verse. You probably prayed this verse. 1 John 1:9. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. We like the part that he's faithful. We get that. Okay, God, you will always do it. Have you ever thought about how he is just to forgive your sins? It's part of the same verse. How is God just to forgive us when we ask him to forgive us? Yes, it's already been paid. And he's not going to require double payment. It's already been paid. So when you say, Lord, forgive me of my sins, what he does is say, I can do that because Jesus already paid for that. So that transaction has already been completed. So I am just to apply your punishment to what I already did to him and give you his righteousness in return for your mistake. He's just to do it. It is a legal, just transaction. Not just a merciful transaction. Thank God for the merciful part of it, but it's a just transaction too because he's already paid the price. Y'all think about that the next time you go through that verse. Hey, he's just to do this, not just faithful to do it because it's already been paid. He's obligated. Yeah, that's a good way to say it. He's obligated to do it because that bill has already been paid.
Talk about grace itself and a little bit of a side, but understanding grace differently, and we always think of grace as like, oh, it's the mercy, it's a beautiful thing, and it's really soft, but we don't ever really understand grace's power.
Right.
Because it is.
Yes.
It's like when we're given that grace and we diminish ourselves and make Christ be our power, right? Let him be our power. We now have that recognized that authority that we get to have and use. And so kind of in that kind of what you're saying, it's like you use the grace itself as both the payment, like the gift to us, but also the
ability of empowerment to change.
Be different.
Yes.
And to have authority because it is given to you.
Yes.
Because it's an obligation of the sacrifice and the exchange that Jesus made for us. Which I think is, again, it's really crazy to think about. It's a powerful thing that we actually have that power because God is obligated to give it to us now because of the cross.
Right.
We accept Jesus.
Right. Obligated to extend it. He's not obligated to force it down your throat. Right. Yeah. It's great to just watch you guys put the pieces together and see how that. Such a cool thing. Let's keep going. Deuteronomy 25, 5-10. If brothers are living together and one of them dies without a son, the widow of the deceased shall not be married outside the family to a stranger. Her husband's brother shall be intimate with her after taking her as his wife and perform the duty of a husband's brother to her. It shall be that her firstborn son will be given the name of the dead brother, so that his name will not be blotted out of Israel. But if the man does not want to marry his brother's widow's wife, then she shall go up to the gate of the city where court is held. Notice that little amplification there. She shall go up to the gate of the city, and then adds this little thing, where court is held. So this is the public meeting place. It's also the place where they do the trials, where they do the court cases, where they have the hearings. To the elders and say, my brother-in-law refuses to continue his brother's name in Israel. He's not willing to perform the duty of a husband's brother. Then the elders of the city will summon him and speak to him. And if he stands firm and says, I do not want to marry her, then the brother's widow shall approach him in the presence of the elders, and shall put the sandal off his foot and spit in his face. And she shall answer and say, so it is done to the man who does not build up his brother's household. In Israel, his family name shall be the house of him whose sandal was removed. Now, I don't necessarily know all about that sandal stuff. What's going on here? Where did it happen? It happened at the gates. What happened? This dude's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. You guys hear my case. Make a determination. So they call the dude in. Why won't you do this? I don't want to marry her. You know you have to, right? Yeah, I do. I don't want to marry her. Okay, fine. So what happens? His name basically gets written out. His name, not the brother's name or the dead husband's name. His name is now written off the rolls. He doesn't have an inheritance in Israel now because he wouldn't do what he was supposed to do. And it all happened at the gates. Once again, family, government, religion, education, all the things of this culture are playing together at the gates. Okay. Judges 9:42 through 45. The next day, the people of Shechem went out to the fields. When Abimelech was told about it, he separated his men into 3 groups and hid them in the fields. When he saw the people coming out of the city, he jumped up and attacked them. Abimelech and his group ran to the entrance gate to the city. Now, notice that. He and his group ran to the entrance gate to the city. The entrance gate of the city. Does it say anything about them going in? Just as they went to the gate, right? The other 2 groups ran out to the people in the fields and struck them down. Abimelech and his men fought the city of Shechem all day until they captured it and killed its people. Then he tore it down and threw salt over the ruins. So they fought all day. He had 3 groups. His group went to the gates. The other groups attacked the people that had gone out into the fields outside the city all day long, and then they finally captured the city. Have they gone inside the city yet? They haven't gone inside it yet, and they've already captured it. So what do you have to do to capture the city? Capture the gate. And then the city is open for you to do whatever you need to do on the inside of it. Then he goes into the city and makes sure everybody's dead. Then he goes into the city and destroys the city and pours salt all over it.
Is that what he's accomplishing there?
I'm not sure.
Take the city lawfully so that when
I mean, it says he killed them in the fields. He attacked the people in the fields. We could probably read back into the history of what is going on here and why I didn't read it out.
why he waited later to tear down.
He didn't even go in the gates. My point was he captured the city at the gates. He didn't even have to go in. He captured the gate and he captured the city. Now, eventually he had to go in and actually lay hold to the title that he'd already claimed by when he captured the city. But he captured the city and he didn't even go inside it. So when we go against the gates of hell, what are we promised? What can we learn from that? We win just when we get the gates. Now, the mission isn't over when you get the gates, but you've won the battle when you get the gates. And then you can force whatever happens on the rest of the inside of the city. But you win the battle when you get the gates.
thinking about the modern day, like how do you win the hearts and minds of people today? See it in like your phone, social media.
Yep.
Media, like that's shown push to you. So if you can win one, you can win them all. But how you do that is through media, education. So that itself is a gate, right?
Yes.
You can argue that it's one of the 7 mountains, but it's actually also a gate, I guess, because that's that communication channel one another.
It's getting real simple. He's doing what he was taught. They do business at the gate.
Right.
So he goes to this place and does business at the
Right.
gate. They enforce their law at the gate, which he did right there, enforcing the captures. He did there at the gate. It's like he didn't go into their culture. He stayed separate. Talk about, once again, we're talking before we got him. We're doing the spirit thing.
He replaced their culture at the source of their culture, at the location of their culture. Yeah.
They were fine with the culture at that time. Like today, it's not. It's different, but because we're not following what God wants us to do. But he was there.
Right. All right, let's keep moving. Ruth 4:1-12. And Boaz had gone up to the city gate and sat there. And look, the Redeemer whom Boaz had spoken was passing by. And he said, come over here to sit, friend. And he came over and sat. And he took 10 men from the elders of the city and said, sit here. And they sat. So what's he doing? He's going to talk to this guy, and he's waiting on him to show up at the gates. So, okay, here, come sit. Now, I'm going to go get some elders. Witnesses. We're about to have a little business discussion. We're about to have a little meeting here, and I want this meeting to be on the record. So he's doing it at the gate. He's gathering the people to have this little meeting. All right. He came over and sat. He took 10 men from the elders of the city and said, sit here. And they sat. And he said to the Redeemer, Naomi, who returned from the countryside of Moab, is selling the tract of land which was for our brother Elimelech. And I thought I would tell you and say, buy it in the presence of those sitting and before the elders of my people. If you want to redeem it, redeem it. But if you do not want to redeem it, tell me so that I may know, for there is no one except you to redeem it. And I am after you. And he said, I want to redeem it. And Boaz said, on the day of your acquiring the field from the hand of Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the wife of the dead man, in order to raise up for the name of the dead his inheritance. His Redeemer said, I'm not able to redeem for myself, lest I ruin my inheritance. You redeem for yourself, my kinsman Redeemer, for I am not able to redeem it. Now, this is the custom in former times in Israel concerning the kinsman redemption and transfer of property. To confirm the matter, a man removed his sandal and gave it to the fellow countryman. Here's this sandal thing again. This was the matter of a testing in Israel. So the Redeemer said to Boaz, acquire it for yourself. And he removed his sandal. And Boaz said to the elders and all the people, you are witnesses this day that I have acquired all that was for Elimelech, and that was for Chilion and Mahlon from the hand of Naomi, and also Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon. I have acquired as a wife to raise up the name of the dead over his inheritance, so that the name of the dead may not be cut off from his relatives and from the gate of his birthplace. Now pay attention to this. And from the gate of his birthplace. You are witnesses today, and all the people who were at the gate, and the elders said, we are witnesses. May Yahweh make the woman coming into your house as Rachel and Leah, who together built the house of Israel. May you have strength in Epaphrathah and bestow a name in Bethlehem. May your house be like the house of Perez, whom Tamar born to Judah from the offspring that Yahweh will give to you from this young woman. I'm sure that's a wonderful prophetic blessing, but that doesn't really mean anything to me at this point in time. So, what's happening? Boaz wanted to talk to this guy who was the legal heir to be Ruth's and Naomi's redeemer. And he saw him walking by the city gate, so he goes and gets the elders, and they have a quick town meeting about this situation. And he says, look, you're the next in line. Do you want to redeem this or not? Yeah, I want to redeem it. Keep in mind that once you do redeem it, you also get Ruth, who was just recently widowed, and you are going to need to raise up heirs to her former husband to make sure that all this is legit. I'm not so sure I want to redeem this thing. Takes the sandal off, and that's like their contract or something in that time. Right, yeah. It's part of, it's a cultural thing. It doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, that must be signing the contracts or something. In that culture, that must be, here's my seal, here's my sign, here's my swearing on the stack of Bibles. I take off my sandal, here it is. So they get to that point, and no, I don't think I want to do that. Okay, fine. Let's do the sandal thing. I'm going to redeem it. So I redeem it, and now not only do I have the land, I'm purchasing the land, I'm redeeming the land, I'm redeeming it for Naomi's kin, and I'm also claiming Ruth as my wife, and I'm going to raise up an heir to Ruth's former husband, Mahlon, whatever his name is. Bless this marriage. So they bless the marriage, and he, from that moment, has a new wife. I think it was his first wife, only wife. Anyway, he leaves that meeting in a much different situation than he was when he went to that meeting. I was just walking by the gate, yeah, and I got married. The part that I wanted to emphasize was, okay, this is a business transaction, so there's a business component to this. This is a family thing. This is also a religious thing. This is also a governmental thing. So the typical ones are at play here again. But I want you to notice verse 10 there. Be cut off from the relatives and from the gate of his birthplace. Let's look at verse 10 again by itself, just in case you missed this. And also Ruth the Moabite, the wife of Mahlon, I have acquired as a wife to raise up the name of the dead who, the husband had died, over his inheritance. So I'm keeping that guy's inheritance. I'm keeping his lineage in Israel, so that the name of the dead may not be cut off from his relatives and from the gate of his birthplace. You are witnesses today. So Boaz is doing this in part so that the name of Mahlon, Ruth's former husband, would not be cut off from the gate of his birthplace. Listen to this in another version. Ruth 4, 9, and 10, this is from the ISV. At this, Boaz addressed the elders and all the people. You are witnesses today that I hereby redeem everything from Naomi that belonged to Elimelech, including what belonged to Chilion and Mahlon, along with Mahlon's wife, Ruth, the Moabite woman. I will marry her to continue the family name as an inheritance, so that the name of the deceased does not disappear from among his relatives, nor from the public record. Nor from the public record. Now, the previous version, cut off from his relatives or from the gate of his birthplace. So what's that saying? Did you see it? Do you see the connection there? The gate of his birthplace was also the public record. In addition to all that we've seen gates represent, you can add legacy and history to the mix. As I'm sure you know, there are forces at work to completely change the culture of this nation. One of the things that most of them are trying to do is to change history. God always thinks generationally. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Have you ever heard of a generational curse or generational blessing? A good man leaves an inheritance for whom? No, not family. It says his children's children, his grandchildren, not my generation, not even his direct generation, the next generation. God thinks generationally. There's a lot of generational reference in the Bible. Even in our discussion of gates, now we can't escape this generational idea because the gates of the birthplace are the public record.
The gates of the birthplace of that person, so like the town or the city they grew up in? Is that what you're saying?
That's, I think that's what it's saying. In my mind, I envision it being written on the gate. Right, right. It's filed in the official building. Well, their official building, for lack of a better term, was the gate
Of the town.
of the town they were born in, which is where their inheritance would, their legacy would be. So not only about these gates is Seven Mountains and all that stuff, it's about legacy, inheritance, it's about history, it's about where you have come from, what you represent, what you leave behind.
Documentation at the gates, like they build these things.
I don't know. That'd be something to look into. Oh.
This says,
Yeah, or bury it or something. There's.
But I found it fascinating when I got to the thing and I read the gates are involved with this history, with this public record. Doesn't that change your perspective on the attack that's going on, what's happening? They're trying to rewrite history. They're trying to say, well, the Holocaust didn't happen. They're trying to say, like, we are not formed as a Christian nation. Well, both of those are false. Both of those both of those ideas contradict evidence from years and years and years ago, document after document and letter after letter. And both of those are ridiculous assumptions. But if you can control the history, how far have you gone to controlling the culture? So part of our battle is going to be make sure the history is right, make sure the legacy is right, make sure the inheritance is right, make sure the generational stuff is right from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. Make sure all that is correct. Make sure you have a good handle on all that so that you are less apt to have your culture changed randomly.
Really hard. What is officially fact or historical if the gate from which the public record of that particular event occurring, it's continually moving.
Yes, yes, exactly. So what do the people do in this society today? They rewrite the textbooks. So if you pay attention to it, the history books that they're showing in schools today is not the same history book that I had when I was in school. Vastly different as far as what it contains, and even more so in the spin, in the filter, in the motive, in the reasoning behind why it wrote what is included therein. All of that is part of the attack on culture. And for us to do our job, we've got to reclaim history, the correct version of history. We've got to reclaim the facts of history. We've got to reclaim the idea, the principle, the motivation of the historical record.
You mentioned about the sandal, Google said the Bible taking off the sandal typically symbolizes either the transfer of property, legal rights, a binding transaction, or a sign of reverence and humility when entering holy ground. So it's doing both. I mean, it's based on focusing on God and doing His law.
Cool. Where'd that come from?
I just Googled it.
Okay. And I'm sure there's more to be said from studying that out, and that wasn't really my intent today. My intent today was just all this stuff is happening at a gate. So when we finally get past this gates, we need to start thinking about the gates differently. And the Seven Mountains are just my way of expressing those factors that are influencing the culture. There's no real doctrine about the Seven Mountains. There's not something that, and I'm trying to not establish it like that, but get you to think that way. If I'm going to go after these gates, how am I going to do it? Likely, you're going to be playing from one or more of those Seven Mountains to make the most impact on a gate. And once you get the gate, once you control the gates, you get the city and all the contents.